Perfect. Okay. Hi, everybody. Yeah, I'm having a little, a little difficulty making sure I get on. So I'm going to check real quick to make sure that I am live on Facebook. Thank you so much for being patient. Okay, here we are. All right, so today is day 973 days since Richard vanished from the barracks there at Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas. And I honed into a video, and ever since then, I'm having a little bit of a problem with my Brave. So I don't know if everything I want to show you is going to be possible, but I'm going to try and see if I can show you everything. And what I wanted to talk about today, because 973 days since Richard vanished from the secure barracks, supposed to be secure, on secure Fort Bliss, not just any installation, but Fort Bliss, which is in El Paso, Army installation. And really, in today's military, it's mixed. So you'll find Air Force there. You'll find, I heard admirals run the emergency intake center, which, they're missing, unaccounted for 20,000 children. 20,000, you heard me right, that are unaccounted for. So we have 44 four-star generals and admirals. We give them a job, the Emergency Intake Center, because our borders are not being secured. And so we have many unaccompanied minors crossing over to the borders. It seems like it's on purpose because it would be very, very easy to secure our borders. And they are taken into this emergency intake center right there at Fort Bliss, because Fort Bliss is in El Paso, Texas, which is the Siamese sister city of Juarez, Mexico. The city of Juarez, Mexico, which is in the state of Chihuahua, Mexico. And that's all very, very important to know the geographics of this case, Richard's case, because you would have an extra secure installation, especially with 44 four-star generals and admirals coming together using all of their experience, everything that we have given them, all of their training, all of the money, all of the equipment, all of our most valuable assets, to come together to defend the Constitution, which is defending the land and the people, and which is the job of our law enforcement agencies, right? Supposed to be. So we see a systemic problem here. One, that the military is not defending the Constitution, the land, and the people, because they have an emergency intake center there at Fort Bliss, and it's missing, unaccounted for, 20,000. The last we heard, I'm sure it's now more. Representative Andy Biggs uncovered all of that. He had to wait months and months. I think it was 5 months before they even answered, do you have unaccounted for minors? 20,000 of them. And so, that they admitted they do not know where these children are. And this is a systemic problem that we give our trust, our money, our volunteer, our patriotism, everything to our law enforcement and to our military, and they betray us. They have betrayed us. Because what are these children? Why are they not accounted for? If they were doing their job, because look, we had 13 million plus service members and all kinds of infiltrators during World War II, and we only had 7 4-star generals and admirals, okay? We call them billets, the 4-star billets. Then we have the flag officers, which are the 3 stars, the 2 stars, and 1 stars. So, but we had only 7 at the time with 13 million. We have 1.3 million right now, so a tenth of the number, and we have 44 4-star generals and admirals. And they can't get anything right. They can't get anything right. Matter of fact, what I looked at that caused me a little problem on my Brave was the defector again, the American defector into Russia. So you had a soldier that was stationed there at Fort Bliss, gets out of the military, joins the Ukrainian military, collects all kinds, spends a whole year collecting all kinds of information, and defects to Russia. To Russia. And, you know, I wanted to hear what he had to say about Fort Bliss. I wanted to hear his frame of mind. Why would he defect? Because I know that in our military, it is brutal. It's a criminal syndicate, and you don't need to go far to find it. And I'll show you right here what I mean. I'm just going to give you a couple examples. And do I agree that this John McIntyre, I think that's what his name is. I have to look. Do I agree that he defected on his defection, on his leaving our military and joining the Ukrainian military and then collecting information and spying? He calls himself a spy, and then going and giving all the information that that he collected to Russia. And if you've been watching my live stream, you know that we have friends in Russia. So when I talk about Russia, I'm talking about the government. I'm talking about also this defector that's not loyal to the United States. Why isn't he loyal to the United States? Why don't we have esprit de corps? Why don't we have the Medal of Honor ethos? Why don't we have a respect for our leaders? So much so that a young man like this, because he's no dummy, and he seems to be apt because he survived a year in the Ukrainian army, which is a feat in itself. So, while collecting information, and I'm just saying, why would he give up his country, his patriotism? And you know, it's a big question, because that is treason, that is a betrayal. And so I believe that our leadership has betrayed us. Our law enforcement has betrayed us. Our even our junior leadership in the military, all the way up the ranks, have been green lit to act in that kind of fashion as a norm. Betrayal has been normalized. To not be patriotic, to be criminal, to be cold-blooded, to be to not want to even establish esprit de corps or the Medal of Honor ethos has been normalized. And so I just think, wow, Did he learn this? He was trained in Fort Bliss after all, and I believe his last name is McIntyre. Uh, did John learn this at Fort Bliss through his leadership to betray his country? Because we know that the 44 four-star generals, we know that the Department of Justice, Merrick Garland, which I want to talk about, we know that the CID, the FBI, we know that Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, Lieutenant General Donna Martin, General James McConville, General Garrett, that they absolutely betrayed us. They act in a way that were crimes against humanity, betrayal of all of the country, of many countries, a betrayal of their oath. And we know that with the CID special agent to know that Richard, listen to this, we have special agent that was heading up the CID right there at Fort Bliss. Our son went missing. We are 36 days behind. They throw us out. That's a betrayal in itself. They throw us out after 3 soldiers were beheaded and many other crimes. Many other crimes. So in this big mess and failure of the CID, failure of military leadership, failure of law enforcement agencies, they threw us out. And we, of course, rallied. We went onto social media, and Hannah's Instagram got 40,000 shares, and they called us up. They called us up in an intimidating way and decided to put Richard back on the rolls and try to help us. So they said. So we are very behind. We're probably close to day 50 at that time. And the CID knows at that time, knows already that Richard put in a Child Protective Service complaint, that he turned in sex videos, that the IG were triggered. That Richard, the first complaint was ignored to his command. We have been told that he reported to his command and it was ignored. And the second complaint was over and above and outside his chain of command to the Child Protective Services. And they knew at that time that he had these sex videos that he turned in. They knew at the time that the IG, because of his complaint over and above the chain of command, had no way to cover up anymore, as far as at least getting the IG to be all over the barracks because of Halliday. And then the continuous severe retaliation started from the general, from Major General Clem Coward. We've never heard from. He's never called us to give us any kind of condolences, to explain why he acted in the manner that he did, which I believe is very criminal. Maybe that's why. So here we are. The CID knows all of this, and we don't. We're totally ignorant of that. We don't know what happened to our son. And what does the CID report to us? Do they report, oh my goodness, yeah, we were having some real issues. He was complaining to the Child Protective Services. IG were all over the barracks because of Halliday, your son. We've got to get to the bottom of this. Do you think that they told us that? No. What did they tell us? Did you know that your son was an atheist? That is what the CID, law enforcement, thought was important to tell us, over and above that Richard caused the IG to be all over the barracks because he turned in sex videos and Child Protective Service complaints. And those, sex videos are not illegal, but child pornography is illegal. The only reason why the IG would be all over the barracks because of Halliday is because there were children in those videos. So they didn't tell us that. We had to find that out. You know what they told us? They told us, you have to bring us the leads. So our law enforcement agencies, all but the CID were made impotent because of the task force Find Richard Halliday that was staged instead of an op-ord given, instead of a leader being appointed, instead of it being made official. No, the Army came out of uniform. That made it unofficial. They never created an op-ord for the task force Find Richard Halliday, which the military doesn't do anything without orders. You have to have orders. You have to have a plan of action. There were none for task force Find Richard Halliday. And then there was no leader appointed. So then you had no direction and no after action reports by our only hope in figuring out what happened to Richard, because they have jurisdiction over Richard, and they all the law enforcement that were there were made impotent. So it was like, okay, go home. El Paso Police Department, go home. FBI, go home. Department of State, Customs and Border Protectors, go home. Interpol, go home. All of them had no direction. 15 plus agencies, law enforcement agencies, including Mexican law enforcement and Mexican military. Not only that, our own military police were made to be saboteurs against Richard. How? They took a senior leader and sent them, or maybe this was a military police senior leader. Anthony Swafford could tell us who it was. Anthony Swafford, military police soldier, could tell us who this senior leader was that stood there at the guard mount, the change of command, just like you see in all those TV programs where they give you the news, the updates, they give you the cases that they're working on. And when they got to Richard, they groundlessly smeared him. So Richard is the very first CONUS S1 missing soldier under the Vanessa Guillen absent soldier flow chart. This is, you have to remember, this was the month Vanessa Guillen's body was found is the month that Richard went missing. And they're sending a senior leader to the military police change of command, a change of shift, the guard mount, where they give all the updates on the cases they're working on, and groundlessly smear Richard. And they've already groomed these soldiers enough. Like I said, it's been groomed that they're cold-blooded, that they have no esprit de corps, that they have no Medal of Honor ethos, that they have no sense of what their duty is, because no matter what. Richard is an active duty soldier and he needs to be found. That's their job. And they didn't learn that because Anthony Swafford heard the groundless smear, and he was persuaded instantly to work against even finding Richard and the search of Richard. So much so that he went onto the social media site and was trying to convince the service member family members not to even hand out flyers to find Richard. Now that is so criminal in my book, and I don't even blame Anthony Swafford. I think it is the 44 four-star generals who have trained our soldiers into such a destructive attitude, into such a destructive response to our country, our country's needs, the military's needs, that it has weakened our military, that it is destroying our military. And you see why. You see why. That our military has become a criminal syndicate, and that's why the law enforcement agencies are not doing their job. They are not doing their job on our dime. On our dime, and with our goodwill, because we think we're so busy in our lives that we think that they're actually doing their job. But it's a matrix, y'all. It's a matrix. It's not what it seems. They're not doing their job. And you see that all through the military, and the highest law enforcer is supposed to be Merrick Garland. And you see the nonsense going on. With all the money that we spend on law enforcement, we should be very safe. But yet, the attorneys, USA, the attorney generals, the law enforcement, you remember when Special Agent Soto was just aghast that Sammy came up to him and said, "Hey, why aren't you answering my phone calls?" Because he recognized his face. But if you try to find Soto's face on, online or anything, it's not posted. If you try to find these law enforcement agents or enforcers, what do you call them, attorneys, you can't see their face. Nobody can hold them accountable because nobody knows who they are. You have Jaime, who I showed yesterday. What's his last name? His face is up there. Praise God. You have Merrick Garland's face up there. And the reason that they don't want to show their face is because they are afraid. They work in these beautiful buildings that have 24-hour protection. Okay? You need a pat down to get in there. And so they don't have, but they say, we fear for our lives. Someone can come after us. Well, then that means that you have failed to do your job. We have given our law enforcement agents everything. And all we have is a criminal syndicate, and we have open borders, and we have unsolved crimes one after the other, and more deaths, and even of our police, even of our sheriffs, so all of the junior law enforcers, they risk their lives every day in the criminal syndicate that our senior law enforcers are giving us, because they're not doing their job. And why aren't they doing their job? That is the question. And so I want to show you why I want to put proof behind what I'm saying. So this is September 29th, 2022. Senators press Pentagon for answers on the rash of overdose deaths. So you have so many overdosed deaths, be it from cocaine. We know that from what happened at spring break a couple years ago with West Pointers that would even dare to go down there and to think that they could, you know, here they are going to West Point on our dime with hope that they will get trained and that they will be honorable with esprit de corps, with the Medal of Honor ethos, with integrity, with loyalty, with personal courage, uh, selfless service, all of these virtues that we want our soldiers, our officers to have. And we find out that that loyalty is not there because they go down to Florida and for some cocaine, for a cocaine party. That's not very responsible at all. And these are not just some of our soldiers. This is the future. This is the future generals. These are our West Pointers. And, and here we have Asia. Asia's family is devastated. Her mother is devastated. Asia Graham was raped, was trying to report the rape. She was dismissed. She was told to shut up. The captain put her rapist 2 doors down from her because our barracks are co-ed. Whose bright idea was that? I keep asking that question. Whose bright idea was that to make the barracks co-ed? Do you understand the demographics of the military? It is mostly men. So, in the Army, it's like 9-1. But wait a minute. What if you're in the Navy? What if you're in the Marines? It's like 400-1. You are setting up our most valuable assets that are female for rape. So she was raped, and then she was tortured, psychologically tortured, and she died of a fentanyl-laced medication. So I think I don't really, well, let's look at this. Here is another thing. If you go on to Find Richard Halliday Telegram, it says here, a Fort Bliss soldier gets 8 years in prison for giving fentanyl to person who died from the drug. 2 Fort Bliss soldiers, this is just Fort Bliss, 2 Fort Bliss soldiers charged with murder and unrelated deaths. 2 Fort Bliss soldiers charged with murder and separate deaths. DOD task force focuses on Mexican drug cartel threats. Senators press. Okay, well, I wanted to clip that, but there's so much more, all on drugs. All you have to do is go into any search engine and put in soldiers, Fort Bliss, Fort Bragg, Fort Stewart, Camp Pendleton, and I know I'm missing tons of them. And you will see the drug problems that we have in the military. Now, this is unacceptable. Absolutely. And this has been going on for such a long time. Well, when is it going to end? Because you see the results of years and years of the marketplace for illegal drugs in the military, where that has gotten us. It has gotten us one failure after the other. One failure. Sorry, why are we spending our money for failure upon failure upon failure and all of these overdoses of our service members that we invest in? We are investing $25,000 sign-up bonus, $50,000 for enlistment bonus, then re-enlistment bonuses, and then the training, and then all of the deployments and all of this. And all we get is failure, failure, failure. And we're getting failure in Ukraine. Okay? Um, I'm I, we have been throwing money at Ukraine, and all we're getting is failure upon failure upon failure. And real crimes are being committed. And Attorney General Merrick Garland, um, let's see if it will open. Oh, thank God it opened up. Um, Here he is. He's not doing anything about it. Where is he? There, we have a military that is one crime after the other, crimes against humanity, that has hijacked our most valuable assets. They're not defending the Constitution, the land, and the people. They're not investigating missing soldiers. Y'all, something is up with Richard's case, that they're not investigating it properly, that they're telling us that we have to find the leads. We have to give them the leads. Why do we have to give them the leads? That's not, from the very beginning, my husband was like, why do we have to give you the leads? What's wrong with the CID? What's wrong with the FBI? And that is why we had a meeting there in 2020 with Representative Veronica Escobar, and we asked her, we need a third party because we are having problems with the CID. They are not doing, all they want to do is smear Richard. That's what it seemed like to us at the time, and we were right. And we were absolutely right. Why? What are they trying to cover up? And that's why I have the video of her talking to the press saying, we both agree that a third party needs to come in. Well, it's almost 1,000 days. We're at 973 days. How long does it take her? She has failed in her job of oversight over Fort Bliss. She has failed in her loyalty to the service members there in her district, in El Paso, in Fort Bliss, and the surrounding areas, Biggs Air, but let's just say Fort Bliss. She has failed her duty to them and to the family members. Where is she? So we need answers. We have given them the truth is that we're the ones that have uncovered everything they already knew. They already knew. And it has taken us a long time. And they didn't count on the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado of the G3 of the 32nd ADCOM, which is Richard's command, to walk into a Dollar General and tell the cashier there to take down the flyers because he's with the FBI. We think that he's an FBI informant, and that the FBI has found Richard in Juarez, Mexico, that they were looking for him, and that in that Siamese sister city that they found Richard. They found his remains, that they were looking for his remains because he said, it's bad news, he's dead. Shh. And we call the Department of State because they did not count on the absolute loyalty to this country, the patriotism to this country, the love of our service members from those cashiers. They are America. They're the ones that called us. They're the ones that wanted to do some good. Why didn't the father-in-law call us? Why didn't Lieutenant Colonel Bugado call us? Why didn't the CID special agent call us? Why didn't they tell us all of these things? because we called the Department of State, and he thought, oh, it was like normal news. Oh yeah, they were looking for Richard's remains. So absolutely, you know, if Richard, if there was a hint that Richard was alive in their minds, he would never have said that. But they were looking for Richard's remains and they found them. Shh. Why is that a secret? And then my husband, put in a request to the Department of Justice to make sure that there was oversight of. I'm starting to get hot. Hold on. I have a sweater on. Oversight of the CID and the FBI and what was going on, and they turned us down. So right now at this point, we should be on first name basis with the prosecutor, the one that was in charge of giving the CID all of the subpoenas of warrants. Richard is so scrutinized. 80 subpoenas and warrants, y'all. He's so scrutinized. They know him by his first name. Why can't we know who was in charge of the law enforcement and the okaying of these subpoenas and warrants? It says here that Attorney General Merrick Garland was sworn in as the 86th Attorney General of the United States on March 11th, 2021. Yeah. As the nation's chief law enforcement officer. Attorney General Garland leads the Justice Department's 115,000 employees. We've given them everything. 115,000 employees, and we have runaway crime and criminal syndicates everywhere who work across the United States and in more than 50 countries worldwide. Under his leadership, the Department of Justice is dedicated to upholding the rule of law. No, they're not. Keeping our country safe. No, they're not. And protecting the civil rights of all Americans. No, they're not. They have failed on all three of those things. And we want to know where they're at. Where are they when it comes to a missing soldier? From a secured installation called Fort Bliss in El Paso, Texas, the border city of Juarez, Mexico. Where is he? So this is some news here, and I'll read it to you. Find Richard Halliday. Motive has been established to El Paso Division Office of the DOJ and to letters sent to Merrick Garland and Mr. Horowitz. I hope I'm getting all those names right. Distinguished honor graduate Richard Halliday has been missing from his barracks room at Fort Bliss, El Paso, Texas for almost 1,000 days. Why have we not heard from you? What kind of inquiries have you and your team made on our son's behalf to find him? What are all the names of the attorneys USA that have been working with CID and the FBI providing the subpoenas and warrants in our son's case? Whoops. There have been so many irregularities in Richard's case. There are irregularities and conflicts of interest with continued leaks are so sloppy. How can we find our son, understand what happened, and get justice? How can this sloppy work happen after the vicious criminal deaths and the CID failures at Fort Hood and other installations of our nation's volunteer soldiers just prior to Richard's disappearance? We request an immediate official response from you on the status of Richard Halliday's case and the investigation. We request our son's case, the investigation, be moved to a different agency so there can be a new investigation into the whereabouts of our son. November 9th, 2020, Team Find Richard Halliday made a complaint with evidence about the CID leaking in our son's case. The evidence was turned over to U.S. Army CID Special Agent Marlon Hernandez Soto after making the case for the leak in front of Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, Lieutenant General Donna Martin, who was the head of the Army CID at the time, SJAs, the FBI, the U.S. Department of Homeland Security, U.S. Department of Customs and Border Protection, DEA, Department of State, Interpol, Bureau of Alcohol, Tobacco, Firearms, Explosives, U.S. Marshals, Mexican Civil Law Enforcement, Mexican Military, El Paso Police Department, DES, Fort Hood, and others. We were never given an answer. And was there even an investigation into the leaks? Why was CID allowed to handle it internally? Why didn't any of them there, right? Why didn't any of them there, including the FBI, investigate the leaks in the CID? Why were they allowed to do that internally? And it was not surprising when we were notified in February of 2022 of a formal complaint to authorities that there were more leaks. CID Special Agent Tavita Nusa leaked our son's case. Richard Halliday's file was leaked to Leilani Hart. However, we were and more people, okay? I've gotten extra information that that it was leaked to more people. And that needs to be investigated. And I did not include that here. However, we were surprised when Corinne Adeline West obtained the leaked response by CID Quantico Headquarters Director Ford to Senator Ted Cruz's letter pertaining to Richard Halliday's case a week before we were even notified. Other obvious leaks are the CID and FBI notarized case numbers of Leilani's complaints, Leilani Hart's complaints of child sexual abuse and more in her own home by her own family members. We have the numbers. We provided the numbers here. We redacted them a bit. Then we find out that there is a long history of child sex abuse complaints in the Hart home going back to the 1990s, 2006, 2015, 2019, and 2020. This is horrible. Aren't sexually abused children victims? Isn't this domestic violence? Why wasn't anything done? This is an established U.S. Army active duty family. Very easy. You know, when you're an active duty family, you are held at a different level, see, because the American people have invested in you. And you have a duty to the American people. So our son, Richard Halliday, being adopted at the age of 5, would not look the other way, and he didn't. His first report, we are told, to his command was buried. His second complaint was over, above, outside, and beyond his chain of command to the El Paso CPS, Child Protective Services. This triggered, we believe, the IG was all over the barracks because of Halliday. We've gotten numerous reports of that the IG was all over the barracks because of Halliday, and he turned over the sex videos. This further triggered retaliation against Richard, a whistleblower for children's sake. By his command, they retaliated. His command retaliated against him. All this could have been avoided years ago if the Department of Justice, all throughout those 115,000 law enforcement enforcers, attorneys, what do they do? What do they do? All this could have been avoided. Why wasn't this investigated? What have you done to stop this kind of vile, vulgar, and very destructive crime? This is worse than a warlike attack on your and our El Paso, Texas community. Why did Leilani Hart want Richard's file? Why would CID Special Agent Tavita Nusa risk his career? He lost his badge. Veteran Leilani Hart's son. So Leilani Hart is a veteran. Her husband is a veteran. Her son is a veteran. First Lieutenant Dallas Hart was also on active duty U.S. Army station. And I want to say this about this. We were leaked again, and I didn't even mention this here, and I should put it up. We were leaked his travel document, okay? And on that, that leak was to say, Dallas Hart wasn't anywhere near Richard when he went missing. Now, this was a handwritten travel document. Red flags went up as soon as we saw it because travel docs have not been handwritten for years and years. Years and years. They are all digital now. Okay? Now, we have that. And everyone knows we have that. Where are the witnesses that say that Dallas Hart was deployed? Where is the official report signed, stamped from Lieutenant General Sean Bernabe, Lieutenant General Donna Martin? What about General McConville? Why can't he tell us that, yes, Dallas Hart wasn't even near that area? Where is the official? This travel doc is not official. And we have been told lies upon lies upon lies upon lies. And then Dallas Hart gets upset when we say, well, that's not good enough. We've been lied to. Where is our son? Okay, where is our son? We have allegations that you hurt our son. Where are the witnesses? Where is the official investigation into that? This is where we need the law enforcement agents to do their job. To do their job and give us answers. And no, they just want to give us phone calls that waste our time. That at the end of the day, even with charm, they're harassment phone calls. So First Lieutenant Dallas Hart was there, stationed there at Fort Bliss when Richard went missing. He was stationed there. That is his hometown. That's where he went to high school. That's where all his friends are. Richard grew up in Ireland, Longford, Ireland. Why would Dallas Hart's friends continuously and severely bully and harass Team Find Richard Halliday for wanting to find their son, brother, grandson, godson, friend? Why? We have had multiple threats. Can the law enforcement agents protect us? We have now become the victims. We are now the victims. That doesn't make sense. If Dallas Hart is a trained officer in the United States Army, and now he's out, which is also why. But if he's a trained officer, he should be trained to know how to handle this. and to get some official documents, get some witnesses, insist that the law enforcement agencies investigate in Richard's disappearance. Where are they? Why is this a cover-up? The motive has been established, especially when you hear the mother saying that there is years and years of sexual deviance happening in the household. You know, I'm not going to accept, oh, my mom's crazy. I'm not going to accept that. What's going on here? You have years of complaints and nothing gets done. And all of this, it didn't need to happen, you see? And that's why the verse that has been given to me on Sunday, because I'm doing Pilgrim's Progress with the Sunday school class, is eyes cannot see, ears cannot hear, and the mind cannot perceive the unbelievable blessings, the magnitude of greatness that God has in store for us, those that love him. We just don't understand it. We can't see it. We can't hear it. We have to have faith in it. And this is our problem. We have turned our back to those truths, and we have helplessness, criminal syndicates. We have law enforcement agencies that don't care a flip about justice anymore because they have forgotten that our eyes cannot see, our ears cannot hear, our minds cannot perceive that when we are caring about justice, when we are loving, when we are humanitarian, when we are giving, when we are loyal, when we do have integrity, when we have all of those wonderful virtues, that God has something great in store for us. And now everyone is just like in dog eat dog, survival of the fittest. They've turned towards Darwin and the survival of the fittest. Let me get whatever. They put on their doggy mask to get this dog, this animal lust culture and create these sex cults, dehumanizing people, taking their human rights away. And Merrick Garland is supposed to protect those human rights. And he doesn't know how to do it. Because he's been captured in this foreign and domestic culture ideology. And so we have to remind him. How are you going to protect the human rights? How are you going to pursue justice? How are you going to defend the Constitution, the land, and the people? And get rid of these criminal syndicates? So, there's Richard. So, absolutely. See if this is it. So this is what concerns us too. This is where we're looking. We're, of course, looking at this airport area. We have gotten some leads in this airport area, but we're not sure that it is the El Paso International Airport or if it's Biggs Airfield. It could be anywhere in this airfield area, because remember we were looking, or Major General Sean Bernabe was looking in this greater area here, which is a training area with mock little towns and stuff like that, Christmas of 2020. So, or if it's the El Paso International Airport in this area, but it can also be maybe in a small airport, and that would be this little airport over here, flight line. And did they even look there? This is where the flight school is, and that is really interesting because you could just, if you're living in this area, you could just go down this street right down here. This is the Santa Teresa Port of Entry. And if you're up to no good, if we have a criminal syndicate where it comes to child trafficking, child sex trafficking, child sex pornography, you come through here, you go right to this OXXO, and you go to kilometer 30, kilometer 29, and guess what you find there? You find not one, but 2 orphanages and a child shelter. Now, we were given a lead that this is where Richard's body was dumped, okay? Where his remains were dumped. Then we have the father-in-law saying that the FBI were looking for Richard's remains and found them. All of this needs to be investigated. Richard is not a cold case. And I understand that it is a big case because of the harassment that we have gotten, the pushback that we have gotten. And that has put us in danger by telling us that we have to get the leads, by us being so involved in the investigation itself, because they told us to. You understand? First, they left us to do it alone. They left us to do it alone. We couldn't even put in a missing persons report because Richard was in nobody's jurisdiction. So we had to think fast on our feet. We had to rally. We had to go to media, social media. And then when they brought us on, they told us we have to bring them the leads. You know why? Because they wanted to control everything, the narratives. And that's why we had absolutely FBI informants in and control, probably political pundits, control in the Find Richard Halliday pursuit, the search for Richard. And when we received the information that a CID, an FBI report was made, and that Special Agent Soto in the CID there at El Paso was informed that Tavita Nusa of the CID Special Agent right there on Fort Bliss leaked Richard's file to Leilani Hart. And I'm curious. There's 2 sides to this. Was she the victim in this, and she was really trying to let the law enforcement know that there was all kinds of child sex trafficking, because we're hearing that even service members' children were hurt in this, okay? And so we know that the Hart family, active duty family. Was she trying to stop this? Had she had enough of it? At the same time, when you have years of complaints going back to the 1990s, pack your bags and take your children and leave, right? Just leave. But no, active duty, and she was active duty. I don't understand why the active duty command did not help. Did she complain to them? I don't understand. I really don't. And I can't be the judge. I can't say, oh, Dallas Hart's telling the truth, or that Leilani Hart, his mother, is telling the truth. I can't say that. I'm not a judge. I'm not privy to all of the information that Merrick Garland would be privy to, that the Department of Justice would be privy to, right? So we need help. And Veronica Escobar could get that for us. And those AUSA, the attorneys there in the El Paso area, they could get that for us. So what's keeping them? What's keeping them? There's nothing that makes sense that keeps them from giving us official answers to these very serious allegations that have been made by Leilani Hart. What were the findings? Because the big one, and this is a big one, and everyone needs to really listen carefully and pass this around. What were in Richard's Child Protective Service complaints? What they could find that out easily. We have had our FOIA, and they will not give it to us. Why was Richard complaining to the Child Protective Services? What were in those sex videos? Because, it's not the only thing, but it would really help the investigation. And, were the complaints that Leilani Hart made child porn? That's a report we got. Child trafficking, that's a report we got. Incest, that's a report we got. I even looked it up. It's a serious crime. Let me see. Yeah. Learn about the punishments and possible defenses for incest and family rape in Texas. And, this is serious crime, y'all. And we need someone to investigate these allegations, these very, very serious allegations, because we have a missing soldier here. And we have so many children, 20,000 unaccompanied children. If this is a child sex trafficking ring that Richard, I don't think he knew how big this was. I think that they were airdropping some child porn, and he wasn't going to put up with that. Okay, he's not putting up with children being raped and filmed and marketed and people making money off of it. He's not going to put up with that. So, we need to get to the bottom of it. I'll take your questions. It's that easy. Let's see. Okay, Danielle, thank you. Delirious. Maybe the subpoenas were done by CID. CID is not the FBI. Their only jurisdiction is within DOD's suitors and civilians if crimes are committed inside the installation. The district attorney Esparza, thank you, Jaime Esparza, nor Ivan Rosales will prosecute domestic violence and other criminal cases. Remember, the city tries to minimize the crimes within the city to give the illusion that El Paso is one of the safest cities. Duh. If you compare it with higher populated areas with high crimes, then indeed it is. First Lieutenant Dallas Hart can provide a copy of his deployable orders showing he was deployed with personal identification information such as Social Security number redacted. Exactly. Red Arrow Airport, Santa Teresa. Yes, exactly. Thank you. Um, yeah, and the military could vouch for him. The military, the CID, they could send us because, um, they would call us and talk to us for so long, round and round and round and round, and we're at almost 1,000 days here. They need to write it down on official letterhead, and sign their names. We don't want to go round and round with the accusations and the allegations and the this and that and the lies and the lies and the lies and the lies. Because they told us on the phone that the father-in-law of Lieutenant Colonel Bugado of the G3 of the 32nd ATCOM was nobody. Oh, that's nobody. The FBI told us that too. It's nobody. It's nobody. No, wait a minute. If they were required, and I think they are, to send us a letter on their letterhead with a signature, I don't think they would say, oh, he's just nobody. So the phone calls had to end. We need official answers instead of all the lies and the games that they play. Absolutely. And so where are the official letters? And we have put in requests, inquiries, and inquiries. And what happens? Delirious has to tell us that Veronica Escobar's office did indeed receive the inquiries we sent. Why didn't they notify us that they had received our inquiries and they would be come back to us and they would notify us, when they would respond? And why is the response delayed? Veronica Escobar has had almost 1,000 days. We were there in 2020. She said she would look into it. She would help us. What's going on? We have more children being raped. We have 20,000 children unaccounted for. She has failed in her duty over and over and over again, and now she has failed our military. She's failed Richard Halliday, which is a missing soldier, which sets a precedence because he is the very first CONUS Dust 1 missing soldier after the whole mess with Vanessa Guillen, where they were forced, where their failures were exposed and they were driven to make changes, and the absent soldier flowchart came into being, and Richard is the very first one on that flowchart. So, where is she? So we have all of these top law enforcement from the military to civilian side, and they have let us down. And we have given them plenty of time, and we've been very, very nice. And now people get angry because we're like, they failed. What's going on? We're the ones that found out about the sex videos. We're the ones that found out about the father-in-law. We're the ones that found out about the leak. We were notified not from the CID or the FBI when they received the report that there were leaks in the CID. They didn't call us and contact us immediately by letter or in any means at all to tell us that Richard's file had been compromised, that his investigation is now compromised, that they need to relinquish their jurisdiction and give it to somebody else and start all over again. They did not do that. And where are these AUSA? Where are the prosecutors? Where are they? They should have been contacting us, letting us know, or at least giving their condolences. Nothing. It's so it's time to say it. We have given them everything. Everything. And in our case, everything. And they've betrayed us. And to continue like this, to not say that we're being betrayed, that the United States is being betrayed, and that the people, the land is being betrayed. What are they mad about? Uganda. What is it? Uganda? Let me see. Oh, here is the defector. And I was very interested in him because I wanted to know, why would he, being trained at Fort Bliss, why would he think so little of the United States that he would betray us like this? Right? And of course, he says about his time at Fort Bliss, absolutely, the leadership did not do their job. They were drunk. He was 18 years old. He drank, and had whores and prostitutes the whole time. That's what they did. Maybe instead of looking at him as the defector where the problem starts, we should look at our 44 four-star generals and admirals and look at how they are training and leading our most valuable assets, because there's just so much crime. There's overdose deaths, there's rapes, it's just failure everywhere. There's not one positive thing. And Ukraine, if you have not watched this from RT, and grant you, this is RT, this is from a Russian perspective, you have to keep that in mind. This is a defector, but it's very interesting because in propaganda, there's always a little string of truth. And we're fed propaganda all the time. Like, be all you can be in the Army. They've hashed that out. And I'm like, what are you talking about? Be all you can be a druggie? A mental health case? Blown up legs and arms and everything in unjust wars? Be all you can. What are you talking about? So in every, and I'm pro Department of Defense. I believe we need to have a defense. Maybe we need to hand it over to the states. Maybe we should give our loyalty and our money to the states and let them defend our country. Because this is not working. They're taking trillions and trillions and trillions, and we audit the Pentagon, and trillions are missing and unaccounted for. Where are they? You can't have failed audits 5 years in a row, and no one asks a question. And if you ask a question, it's like, you're an American. No, I'm American. I care about the taxpayer, the little man. So where is this money going to when we give our military everything, and they have betrayed us and hijacked our military and our service members, and they're being held hostage? And some of them don't even know it because they have those round squiggly things in front of their eyes because they're hypnotized. So because you can't have this much failure and have a Department of Defense. You can't have this much failure, this much crime, and have a Department of Justice. A successful Department of Justice. It's not successful. So maybe if we call it out, we could get them, Major General, now he's a Lieutenant General. He's a 3 stars. Sean Bernabe did give me hope with something that he said. And he said, our failures drove us to make changes. And I corrected that a little bit. I said, I fixed it. I said, the exposure of your failures drove you to do the right thing. Okay? Um, so this is what our role is in all of this, is exposing all the failures, having that oversight, and driving them to do the right thing. So, and then we probably need to retrench. We need to retrench because it's just too much money and they're begging for more money. When they have 5 audits of trillions of dollars missing, I kid you not, unaccounted for, the Pentagon. And now we have at Fort Bliss in our emergency intake center 20,000 children unaccounted for. That's even worse. So thank you so much. I think that's all the questions. And I will be back tomorrow, God willing. Thank you so much.